But at the end of the day, I was fake. I wasn't giving it my all, even though I busted my butts on the weekends, like I was here all the time or doing something church related all weekend long. Yeah, it was fake. I was 50-50 about it. I didn't have my heart in the right place, and I want to speak to those of you today who are living this reality today, who go to church, have the Bible verse in their, Instagram bio, but aren't living that lifestyle. I wanted to speak to you guys today. So before we get started, I have a couple questions. They're very boring, and it's about the same thing, but how many of you guys have ever gone fishing? Okay. You've never gone fishing? Okay. How many of you guys enjoy fishing? Like, honestly, enjoy it. Okay. Interesting answers. I didn't really think I would get those kind of answers. Well, I have a funny story to tell you guys about fishing, and it really doesn't have anything to do with like my message other than the fact I'm going to talk about a fisherman later. But my dad grew up on a farm. You guys know he tells you about every week that he grew up on a farm. So that means my grandparents, owned a farm. And so we would go up there all of the time and do all kinds of farm girl things. I would ride four-wheelers. I'd play with cows. I'd play with chickens. I was scared of the cows and the chickens, and they would attack me, but still played with them. And then we would fish. And I was a city girl, definitely still a city girl. And so when we would go, I was terrified of everything and I didn't want to do anything. But my cousins were like, hey, let's go fishing. And my mom had just bought me a brand new Barbie fishing rod, guys. And it was like one of the little ones. So it was like the ones the kids use. Wasn't good. It was like $10 at Walmart. But she bought it because I wanted to fish. And my grandpa used to have this shop and he had a whole wall like full of fishing rods, like the big, nice fishing rods. And I wasn't allowed to touch those. So she got me my own fishing rod that had like the button, Now you gotta like turn the thing and then fling the thing and then close the thing and then reel the thing and too much work. I just want to hit a button and go like that and it goes in. So this story takes place at the pond that was on my grandparents' land. We are fishing. It's me and my cousin Shannon, who is the opposite of me. She is a country girl. She grew up on land and fishing and doing all those things. And then her little sister, Mercy, who is her mini-me. But she's a little more girly, but still she is a country girl compared to me. And we're going to go fishing, and we have like all of our stuff we need, our little Barbie case, our little Barbie fishing rod. And she was like, do we have to use this? And I was like, yes, because I don't know how to use a big one, and I don't want to break it. So we're walking down to the pond, and we walk past my pawpaw, and he goes, you guys can go fishing. That's fine. You guys can go fishing. But do not cast it into the middle of the pond. And I was like, why? And he goes, that's where the big catfish live, is in the bottom of the middle of the pond. And I was like, whatever. I've only ever caught fish like this big from this pond, so I wasn't too worried about it. So we go down, we're standing at the edge of the pond, and we're taking turns casting it, like between the three of us. And so of course I cast it, and it goes like 2 feet in front of me, and I just reel it in, and I'm like, dang it, I didn't catch anything. And then my younger cousin goes, and she does it a little bit farther than me. And then my other cousin, who's we're the same age, opposite of me, grabs the rod and goes, right in the middle of the pond. We're going to get in so much trouble. And I was the kid that, like, I didn't care if I got in trouble, but, like, Papa was talking about, so if something would happen, I'd feel terrible. In my head, what do y'all do actually catch a fish? Like, we fish here all the time, we don't really catch fish. So she starts reeling in, and I can kind of hear my Papa coming, like, driving with his, like, four-wheeler around, and she starts reeling in, and her whole body, I'm not even kidding, goes like this, across, like, the thing, and I was like, and she goes, I got something, and she's, like, holding it, and she's, like, trying to reel it in, and I'm like, oh my God, and she goes, grab onto me, so I'm grabbing onto her, guys, by some God miracle, this fishing rod did not break, okay? So I'm holding on to her, Mercy's holding on to me, Shannon's holding on to it, we're all leaning back, trying to get this in, she's reeling in as fast as she can, we're basically like ankle deep in the pond at this point, we're reeling it in, and I look, and I see this fish swimming up that we've caught. I'm not even kidding you guys, this catfish was probably, I was also 7, but I was probably like, the head was like this big, okay? It was huge, and And I was like, oh my God. At this point, I'm scared that the fish is this big. So I go, ah! And I turn around and I start to run. And as I do that, the line goes and breaks. So my cousin, being a country girl, was all mad because it broke. My papa comes flying around with his four-wheeler, and he's like, what are you doing? What happened? And we were like, oh, we accidentally did it in the middle of the pond. We got this huge fish, and it could have fed the family 5 times over again. We were so mad because we thought we could just, be the little fisherwomen that provide for the family, but we weren't. Anyway, speaking of fishing, I'm going to stop talking about myself. But there was a man in the Bible named Peter, but his original name his original name was Simon, but it was changed in the wilderness after many stories like the one we are going to talk about today. He was an amazing fisherman, and there's a story in the Bible that I love reading because it's one of those stories where you can read it over and over again and get so many different interpretations of it. So we're going to read it today. It is found in Luke chapter 5, and it starts off, one day as Jesus was standing by the lake of, I don't know that word, so we're going to go with Lake of G. Caleb told me one name he thought it was, and I'm not allowed to say what it was, but it has to do with something when you fart a little bit, and you're a little bit scared when you fart a little bit. That word, that's what he thought that was saying. Jenna blank. So Lake of G, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. Make a note of that. They were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he had said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything." So let's break this down from where we're at right now because there's some things that we can miss when we read this super quick. So first thing, they talk about the nets. They talk about how they were, cleaning up the nets, washing up the nets. So the backstory about the nets. These things are 100 feet long, like they're huge, okay? And they would have to drag them to shore. These things were heavy. There's only 2 of them. Drag them to shore, wash them, mend them. So like if there was like a little rip in it, they'd have to like literally sew it. Is any of the boys in here know how to sew? They would sew it, and then they would fold them. So imagine like we have to fold the drapes at church, and like that's a lot of work. So imagine these big old wet nets. You're like, and all this stuff. And so they were doing all of that. And I read somewhere when I was doing research into this story that it could have taken like anywhere up to like 6 to like 12 hours sometimes to fix these nets. Like it was insane how busy these nets were. Like they're a piece of work. And then on top of that, Simon says, "We've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything." So these guys are professional fishermen, 1. And 2, they have 100-foot nets and didn't catch 1 fish. Yeah, I'd be a little pissed off too. If I all night long fishing and I didn't catch 1 fish, I'd be so mad. But Simon says to him, "But because you say so, I will let down the nets." Guys, what do you need to let go of? What has God been telling you that you need to let go of? What have you been holding on to saying, "God, I've worked so hard on these nets. I've worked so hard on washing them and mending them and folding them. I worked so hard. Why are you going to tell me to drop them again? God, I've worked so hard. This addiction that I have, I can't get rid of it. I just want to hold on to it. It's easier to hold on to it than let go of it. This relationship I'm in. God, I like this person. I want to be with this person. I can't see myself without them. I'm going to hold on to this. This friendship that is toxic that you have. It's easier to be friends with them than it is to let go of it. What do you have in your hands that you need to let go of? It's too hard to let go of because you're exhausted from keeping up with it. Guys, I've been there with the toxic friends. I've done that. It's not fun. It sucks. Do you have an addiction that you can't let go of? Do you have a person that is worse than an addiction that you can't let go of? Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Because God can heal you guys. He can heal all those things. But you have to drop it first. You have to give it to him first, and then he can handle it. I wish at your age someone shook me and said, Tessa, none of this matters. None of this high school, middle school stuff this worldly stuff that you're doing, it doesn't matter. Drop it. Everyone always says after high school you lose your friends. They go off and do their thing. You go off and do their thing. And I didn't believe them. I was like, no, me and my friends were close. We got this. We'll be friends forever. Of course I'm going to go and be with them. Of course I'm going to go party and do this. They're doing it. Why can't I? They're gone, guys. They leave. And then you're stuck with this list of things that you've done wrong. And one day you're going to have to talk to Jesus about that. You're going to have to be honest and have that open conversation. What do you want God to say about you? Yeah. Okay, moving on. So next in the verse it says, when they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. So it's so crazy how one night they're going fishing and they don't catch one single fish. And then God says, no, do it again. Drop your net. Drop your net. And he provides with so much fish that their boat almost sank. What do you need to pick up, guys? You need to drop your nets. You need to drop the toxic stuff in your life, the addictions. You need to drop it. Your attitude, that all needs to go. But what do you need to pick up? Maybe you are lukewarm with your relationship with God. I know I was at this age. I was going to church and lifting my hands during worship, but I was sinning, skipping out on prayer and devotions to focus on worldly things. And it ended with me crying on my bedroom floor, saying, God, please save me. I can't do this anymore. But it's really, really hard for God when, we all look for people to be in relationship with us and people to love us, but if we're not doing that to God, how are we going to get anything out of him? I wasn't living for him. Maybe you need to pick up your Bible. Maybe you need to switch out the secular music for some Christian music. Maybe you need to begin praying more throughout your day. Maybe you need to have a servant's heart. It's really easy for us to be like, nah, I'm not going to set up. I'd rather go do this. I'd rather go do that. God doesn't say that you absolutely have to be a servant to go to heaven, but God does bless you for that. God can provide for you when you are a servant and have a servant's heart. I fully believe that going and being a part of the things that I was a part of in church throughout your guys' age is what protected me from some pretty bad things. What do you guys need to pick up? Because I know it's impossible to drop some things, but it's probably going to be even harder to pick some things up. You want to drop your anxiety and depression? That's great. Drop it. But what are you going to pick up? Are you just going to drop it and say, God, here it is? I'm not going to do anything for you? No, I'm going to pray for my life. I'm going to pray over the people around me. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to go to church early, and I'm going to pray over the seats to make sure that everyone in here can have the same realization that I had. I'm going to ask people what they need from me, and I'm going to do that. You can't just give over your addiction, your toxic friends, your toxic relationships. You can't just give those over and be done. You got to pick something up. They picked up those fish, and they had all of these fish, and then it picks up and it says, when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. Guys, I get it. I sat in these seats. I did the dang thing. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be popular. I was in a relationship. I wanted to post the perfect post. I wanted to be the perfect person. I wanted to go to the parties. I wanted to fit in. It ain't worth it, guys. It's not. I'm coming on Sunday and raising my hands and say, Jesus, protect me. Jesus, love me. I love you. But then during the week, I'm a terrible Christian. You can't be lukewarm. God says that he'll spit you out if you're lukewarm. And I'm not trying to be morbid or anything. I don't want to scare you guys or anything, but what if we don't have it tomorrow? What if you don't have it tomorrow? You go to heaven tomorrow morning. You stand in front of Jesus. Is he going to say, you're all good? Come on. Or is he going to say, no, you had an addiction you didn't tell anyone about. You didn't worship me during the week, just on Sunday mornings. Are you lukewarm? Are you in the middle? Because guys, the worldly things are fun in the moment. They're cool. They're great. Everyone wants you to do it. They're like, come on, come with me. Come on, let's do it. Everyone wants to do this. It's hard being a Christian when no one else around you is. It's hard loving people when they do you wrong. It's hard going to social events and not picking up a drink. It's hard. But if more of us can say, I can do this, I can be a Christian, I can go to church, I can have a servant's heart, I can read my Bible, I can pray, then we're all doing it. It's easy for all of us to do it. Our job as followers of Christ is to make disciples. Our job is to not sit back, sin, post a Bible verse on our story, maybe in our bio too, and call it good. If you're following Jesus, then you're following Jesus. Devoting your life to him, you're praying, you're worshiping, you're studying your Bible. We can't just give him our free time. We can't just give him, first couple minutes of our day. We can't be on our knees crying to Jesus saying, Jesus, please forgive me. I'm about to fail high school. I'm about to fail college. My parents hate me. I have this addiction. I can't stop. But all these other times in your day where you're scrolling through your phone, you're making priority for your friends, you got to make priority for God. At school, I know right now that in Grand Valley specifically, there's a group of people who, are loving Jesus and they're doing that and they're doing great. Where's this been? Are you living for Jesus during school? Are you living for Jesus when your teacher, gives you a grade you don't deserve? When your friend lies to you? Are you living for Jesus when you go hang out at your friend's house? Your parents don't really like them, but you go hang out with them anyway? Are you living for Jesus then? I'm telling you guys, it's easy to live for the world. It's easy, and it feels great in the moment. And you feel like you're the coolest person, and you're so popular, and all this stuff, but guys, it's not worth it. I went to college, I was an hour away, and all through high school, I just thought, if I can just get out of this situation I'm in, if I can get out of this household that is on me all the time, even though they should have been on me, I need to get out of this, get away from my parents, get away from my toxic friends, I'll go, and this will be great. This will be awesome. This is a new step for me. I'm going to be out there, and I'm starting a new life for myself. And then you go out there and, didn't go to church because never would want to go to a different church other than this one. Wasn't waking up on Sundays driving here to be at this church. I was in a terrible state of mind my whole freshman year of college. I didn't want to be there. I went to school. I was at cheer all the time. I never got up and wanted to get ready for myself. It was miserable. Because the thing I was missing was church and God. I pushed him away when I pushed everything else that I thought was toxic away. Because I sat in these seats, guys. I did this thing. And my life was still falling apart in high school. It was still struggling. And I was doing it. Raised my hands, praying on Sunday mornings, reading the words on the screen. Thought I was getting what I needed for the week. But my life was still falling apart when I was sitting in these seats. But what it takes is action. It takes you stepping out and being like, I'm different. I'm dropping my nets. I'm picking up everything that God asks me to pick up. Jesus provided for those fishermen. What did they get out of the fish? Food, money. What do we get out of God when we drop the nets? What if Peter never dropped the nets? What if Peter said, God, no. I've worked so hard on these nets. I folded them. I cleaned them. I sewed them. They look great. I'm not dropping them. I've got this group of friends that I hang out with because they're my teammates. They're perfect. We see each other all the time. We go to school together. We go to sports together. Sometimes we hang out outside of that together. But are they good friends? If he would have never dropped those nets, he never would have got what God has for him on the other side. It's actually funny, I didn't put this in here, but in this story, the different versions, there's different versions of the Bible. In one of the versions, it says that Jesus told him to fish on the other side of the boat. And I'm sure he was like, well, that's crazy, because the boat's probably this big, so if I'm not catching anything over here, I'm definitely not going to catch everything over here. But God said, no, put it on the other side. Come on, drop your nets. He said, but God, I've been doing it all night. But God, I've been friends with them for so long. God, I've been going to these social events for 3 years now. God, I've been dating them and I love them. But God, my parents, they're my parents. These addictions, they're not that bad. I can hold on to them. No. He said, drop your nets. And he did. And look what came out of that. And Jesus provided for them. It's easy to fall into worldly habits, but we can be the generation to say, no, I'm not going to fall into sin. I'm not going to do wrong because I have a God who can provide. He can provide for you and you and you and you. But as long as we're holding on to all this stuff, as long as we're holding on to everything, he can't help us. He can't provide for us. You've got to drop it. Don't be lukewarm. I wish, and I know Caleb preached to me every Sunday, but I wish someone could have just seen my future and said, Tessa, listen to me. Tessa, wake up. Because I was sitting here in these seats, and I was just like, I'm listening, I got it, God's good. He protected my family in a tornado, he saved my brother's life, he's good, he's a good guy. I always thought, I don't have a cool story. I don't have a testimony. I grew up in church, did the thing. Now I wish someone literally shook me by the head and said, listen, God's got you. You just got to drop it. You got to drop the attitude. You're better than everyone attitude. You got to drop your toxic friends, your anxiety, your depression. Guys, that's a real thing. Anxiety, depression, it's a real thing. I'm not saying that you just have to be like, I'm done. I'm not depressed anymore. I don't have anxiety. No, give it to God. Give it to God and pick up what you need to pick up. Stay in a one-way street. And until you decide to make it a two-way street, you're going to feel like God's not listening to you. So I thought the same thing. There's another slide. I don't remember what it says off the top of my head. I'm going to drop what God tells me to drop. I'm going to pick up what God tells me to pick up because I want God to provide for me. If you have a phone, take it out. Take a picture of that. I'm not seeing people move. Thanks. I'm going to drop what God tells me to drop. I'm going to pick up what God tells me to pick up because I want God to provide for me. Y'all, once you get out of high school, you go into college, you start thinking about your future. You start thinking about who you're going to marry, who you're going to be with, when you want to have kids, what job you're going to have, your career, what house, what city you want to live in. Start thinking about all those things. And if you're crazy, living this crazy lifestyle, you're going to have to fess up for that one day. It's just not worth it, guys. I wish I was bold enough at your age to walk through the hallways and tell people about Jesus, but I wasn't. Wish I was bold enough to post every single day on my social media when I was reading my daily verse. I wish I would have done that. I wish when people were struggling in my life, I had friends coming to me for some crazy things. I was like everyone's therapist as a friend, and I wish I gave them godly advice, but sadly I had to give them worldly advice. It's not worth it. Drop what you need to drop. Pick up what you need to pick up. God can provide for you. It doesn't matter what your friends think, because guess what? They don't last forever, no matter who they are. And if they do, good for you, but tell them about Jesus. Doesn't matter what your family thinks. I always forget that I have to throw that in there. I was lucky enough to grow up with a family who, love Jesus, but I know that there's people who have families who think that this whole church Jesus thing is crazy. Doesn't matter what they think, guys. You can tell them about Jesus. Get them to church. Pray for them. Doesn't matter what your teammates think. You only play with the same set of people, exact same set of people for more than likely just a year. And then you graduate and you don't see him anymore. Doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Doesn't matter what your peers think. Nothing. You're on this earth to praise God and make disciples. So what's stopping you? We cannot do that, guys, by holding on to the hurts. We're too selfish a job. We are on this earth to make disciples and pray God. So what do you need to drop so God can provide for you? He can give you that peace, can help you pick up what you need to pick up, and live the life that you want to live. God can't bless lifestyles that are worldly. Drop what you need to drop. Pick up what you need to pick up so God can provide for you.